open up a new Colab notebook. We're going to call this one string indexing and slicing. Very important topic in programming. And let's start by identifying a string. Go with a galaxy. We'll use our own, which is the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, so the idea behind strings, of course, is that the order matters. I'm going to press Shift-Enter to store it. Right, like a string is a sequence of characters, but if you mix them up, you actually get a different string. So each character is sort of in a placeholder. Like the M is indexed by 0. Okay, that's the 0th element in the string. Or you could say the M is in the 0th index. Okay, the ith is in the first, the I is in the first index, the L is in the second, etc. So you can use what's called indexing to access individual elements of a string. And you do that by simply using what's called brackets, okay, bracket notation. So basically you put in your variable, in this case, it's a string, a galaxy, and then brackets. Now, if you want to get that very first letter with the 0th index, you put a 0 in there, okay, press Shift-Enter, and you can see you get the M. Very cool. Okay, so what if you want to get, like, say, the third letter in there? Well, what the third letter, right, 1, 2, 3, well, that's the 0 for second index, and so you would put a 2 inside of the brackets, and you can see that you get the L. Okay, that's pretty cool. You can also go from the end. Now, there's some different ways to get the end, okay? And one way you could do it is you could count it directly. That's not very useful. Another way you could use is you could figure out, well, what's the length of this string? There actually is a global keyword length, and so you can put in length of galaxy, okay? And this will give us the number of characters. And so we can see, okay, there are 15 characters in the galaxy. And so if I want to get the last one, now remember the index starts with 0, not 1, so it would actually be 14. Okay, it's the 14th index, and you can see you do get the Y. I can tell you that the length function is very useful in Python, but if I want to get the last element of a string, okay, the cleanest way to do it is to use another number. You can think about what that number might be. The idea here is imagine you have a really long string and you don't know how many characters there are. You just need the last element. Well, 0's taken, and all the positive integers are taken. So what else might it be, do you think, where you could get to the last element? Well, you could go the other way and put in a -1. So if you put in -1, you could see you also get the Y. And similarly, you could try like what if you want to get the third to last letter? Well, you could put in a -3 because it counts from the back, -1, -2, -3. Now in this case, the -3 is actually from the string Milky Way galaxy, not from the variable galaxy. There's some overlap because they both have galaxy in them. Okay, so that's how you can access individual characters of a string. That's called indexing. Next, we're going to look at slicing, which is how you get multiple elements of a string. So let's say you want to get the first 3 elements of a string. Well, it still uses bracket notation, but you need 2 numbers now. And so if the first number would be 0, let's get the first 4 letters. And then if we want the first 4, you actually put a 4 in here. It includes 0, 1, 2, and 3 as indexes and excludes the last one. So slicing does not include the last element. And you can see because if you press Shift-Enter here, you get milk, which is kind of fun, right? Because the word milk is in the name of our galaxy. Okay, that's interesting. In Python, there are a lot of defaults, and a default is actually to always start at the beginning. And so if you don't put a number in front of the colon, then it's considered to be 0, and you can just put 4. And so that is a way to actually get the first 4 elements of the string galaxy. Okay, and that's probably the standard way of doing it. Similarly, if you want the last 4, okay, how would we do that? Well, recall that if you start at the back, then it's like -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, so you can start with -4, but if you go all the way up to -1, okay, it's not going to include the last element. Kind of fun though, you get the word lax. And so if you wanted strictly the last 4, the idea is that this means starting at the -4 and you can keep going and it just goes until the end. So if there's nothing after the colon, it will go until the end. Press shift in there and you get the fun laxy. And maybe one more, like how might you get, say, the middle characters? Well, if you start at 5, maybe you want to end at 9. You can press shift enter and then you can see what you get. And you can see that you get the word way, which is in the middle, along with an extra space in there. So indexing and slicing are actually essential in programming. It's a way to get inside of variables. And importantly, if you go on to data analytics, it's used a lot to actually identify individual columns and rows and subsets within big data. Okay, so it's a valuable skill to keep practicing.